This is not an introduction. It may be reductive to say so, but a speedrun is a series of tasks performed as quickly as the user is able. The nature of those tasks is based on the objective of the run. That goal dictates what actions are inevitably taken by the runner. In full game speedruns, the player takes every action to reach the end of the game. But what if there is no game to reach the end of? That's what we're here to talk about, or rather, how to speedrun the game There Is No Game, which actually does have an ending. There Is No Game is a quirky title, which insists it is not what it is, a game. As the player boots it up for the first time, they are confronted with big, bold letters proclaiming the game's non-existence. But through a series of subversive actions, they topple the designer, who talks to them throughout the experience. It doesn't take too long to complete, and as you might expect, this video is going to completely spoil every detail about it. So if you haven't played it before, I'm leaving a link in the description. I'll wait for you to come back. It's a bit of a goofy premise, isn't it? Imagine if I titled this video, There Is No Video. Wait, that would make a good thumbnail, wouldn't it? Anyways, its very existence disproves its name. The name of the game is provocative. It encourages the potential player to give it a click, learn what this non-game is all about, and likewise, it was that curiosity that led me, upon seeing There Is No Game was a popular title to speedrun, to click on it, and start speedrunning myself. I've gotten semi-decent at it. If I can brag, my best time would slap me right in the top 50. Part of what makes There Is No Game fun to speedrun is this novelty factor, but I think that would only get a game so far on the speedrunning leaderboards. Nobody wants to devote that much time to a boring game. What really keeps you coming back to There Is No Game is that it's speedrunning distilled into its most simple parts. It's a game that, despite its name, knows exactly what it is. A series of tasks, a series of mini-games. It doesn't obscure this fact, but celebrates it. It's a game not really meant to be played more than once, and yet, when treated as an obstacle course, it manages to shine brightly. In this video, we're going to explore how to speedrun There Is No Game, which, by my count, only has 19 tasks between the player and speedrunning glory. Assuming you've played through all of There Is No Game by this point, it could suffice to say, do it again, but faster. But that's a pretty unsatisfactory answer. There aren't too many shortcuts when speedrunning the game though. There is a glitch percent which has a few tricks, but even then you're going to be doing most of the same tasks as in glitchless. So today we're going to focus on the glitchless speedrun. The first task is to click the O until it falls down, though the O is not clickable for the first 20-ish seconds of the run, which is kind of a bummer. Whatever method of clicking is fastest for you will work here. I recommend using 2 fingers rather than 1. Once the O falls down, you've got your second task. Lift it up and drop it until the sound button falls over to your right. Don't lift it too high, as then you're wasting time dragging it up and waiting for it to fall back down. Then click the mute button. Wait, don't mute me. I'm trying to tell you how to speedrun There Is No Game, but I'm kind of just telling you how to play it, aren't I? This is actually kind of tricky. Should I just recount every small task you have to do? Would that satisfy the prompt of how the heck do you speedrun There Is No Game? Those of you who've seen a video in this series know I don't really give practical advice on how to speedrun these games. These aren't guides. Instead, I discuss the mentality and philosophy of speedrunning. I find what's interesting about the game, what's beautiful about the run, and I try to highlight that. So, what's beautiful about speedrunning There Is No Game? For me, it is these tasks. It's that each one is meaningfully different from the others. Just take that letter O. Throughout the speedrun, it will be used as an object to click on rapidly, to pick up and drop rapidly, to pick up and smash something, and be used to spell the word GOAT. Yeah, if you haven't yet played There Is No Game, that one might be confusing. There Is No Game is a variety hour. It's a series of WarioWare minigames sent at you in quick succession. The game, because you're supposed to be listening to the narrator, has gaps between these minigames, but it's always the same 19 tasks in a row, isn't it? And none of them are particularly difficult on the face of it. Click on this nut, break these boxes, hit this ball. Probably the fanciest trick in the game is trying to catch the nut before it hits the ground, One of the guides on speedrun.com says this saves a whole 0.5 seconds when pulled off. In the speedrun community, we have a name for tasks I haven't brought up yet: splits. A split is not exactly a task, but a segment of a run. They are useful because they help keep the current attempt in perspective of others, both those of the runner themselves and their competitors. They are a metric of success and failure. If a runner's splits are particularly slow, they might choose to simply restart, knowing that a personal best is out of their reach. In theory, one could make a split out of every action they do in a game, at least for those with no random encounters. But the tricky part would be then recording each one. That's why nobody keeps track of their splits and there is no game. It's such a short run, it doesn't make sense to use your mental energy on that. It's gonna be over in a moment anyways. I do keep a mental list of splits in my head though while I play. It's just I don't need a program to tell me if I'm fast or slow. By far the most difficult segment of the run, and the most critical for the speedrunner to get right, is the breakout section, where you have to break all these blocks with a ball and paddle. You're probably familiar with the concept, but if you're not, leave a comment down below and I'll get on making a video on Breakout. That's actually not a bad idea. Anyway, There Is No Game's breakout segment is not quite as simple as break them all as fast as you can, because after breaking a certain amount, they'll start to move around, then the ball will get taken away, then you'll have to put a replacement in. Once you hit the final checkpoint, your speed ceases to matter for the most part because you're locked into listening to the narrator. Even if you destroy all the blocks, you'll still have to wait for him to be done speaking. Thus, it isn't break the blocks as fast as possible, but reach the first 3 checkpoints as quickly as possible. Which means breaking the first dozen blocks is a lot more important than the last dozen. Breakout is a game. It's the game the narrator hides from you, and it's the most robust minigame here. But if you just wanted to speedrun that, you could just go speedrun a full version of Breakout. I can guarantee it will be less glitchy and infuriating than this one. So why speedrun There Is No Game? What makes it enticing, interesting, engaging? Maybe because it's a bit like playing Simon Says? No individual task given by the proverbial Simon is usually that difficult. Stand on one foot, sure, I can do that. Touch my finger to my nose, why not? It's them all taken together. It's that someone is unpredictably choosing each item on the itinerary, keeping us guessing, that makes it enjoyable. There isn't always a rhyme or reason to There Is No Game, like in how it makes us spell goat in order to proceed. The only logic there is that goat is a 4-letter word that can be spelled by the rearranged letters of There Is No Game, so maybe it's just an arbitrary Simon Says of a speedrun. But that's not how it advertises itself. There Is No Game is novelty software. One we might imagine finding in a Spencer's gift shop if it had a Steam storefront, that is. And likewise, this is a novelty speedrun. One which manages to be quite popular because it's unassuming, it's fun, and it's memey. The speedrunning Discord server for the game has gotten a lot of mileage out of its simple joke title. Many users put the word "not" before their usernames, which I quite like, so I did it too. The game is something of an inside joke between friends then. It matters less what the actual game is, and more what it represents, community. But aren't all speedruns kind of a novelty? They're all metagames we place on otherwise real games. There Is No Game is more than just a novelty speedrun, because it's already a metagame, or a game about games, so we feel especially clever when we manipulate it further into a different metagame, proving we can make a game out of anything, even something that claims it's not a game. But that just plays into There Is No Game's hand, doesn't it? It already wants us to be thinking about the nature of games, what is and isn't one. By turning it into a game for our pleasure, we reaffirm its facetious thesis, meant to provoke us. There is no game. Perhaps there is no speedrun. Maybe I've made all this up. Have you actually checked beyond this single video to see if it exists? Who would speedrun a Flash game anyways? Is it possible this is all just an elaborate ruse? A video made to confuse you? Better make sure it's not. What's that? You checked and I'm full of bullshit and you want me to keep writing the actual video? Okay, fine. Let's return to discussing the question you're here to consider. How do we speedrun There Is No Game? Again, the answer is simple. Complete all the tasks. To do them quickly, play a lot. I recommend 30 minutes a day at least. You've got to be prepared to do each task immediately when it becomes available to be acted on. You've got to learn how to manipulate that damn breakout ball so it destroys the blocks with its glitchy power rather than tanking your runs. You've got to be precise with your mouse movements because there's no room for error. Wait, that's me. There's no room for me? Shit. Sorry. To speedrun There Is No Game takes exactly what it takes to speedrun anything else. Time. You've got to grow familiar with it if you want to succeed. Sure, anyone can beat the game, but to speedrun it well, you've got to be intimate with it. Know it inside and out. Memorize it. Play it like you'd play a song on the piano, moving your fingers by instinct rather than thought. What's beautiful about There Is No Game is that it's all played on your mouse. And unlike Mario or Sonic, your mouse doesn't really have a speed limit, but it does have to be accurate. So, even in the fastest runs, there is room for improvement. 2 of the other games in this series had this quality too, those being Minesweeper and Cetera. And in all of them, it seems like the human limit of mouse speed is on display when we watch a world record run. It's exhilarating and fun. There isn't a speed limit. You're on the Autobahn. Go wild. Most importantly, try to have fun with it. It's a silly game and a silly speedrun, so don't take it too seriously, okay? What I find more interesting than a how-to speedrun There Is No Game is asking what There Is No Game can tell us about speedrunning in general. Most saliently, it explores the peculiar relationship between waiting and playing, and how that relationship plays out when we speedrun. I remember first seeing the ace speedruns of Zelda Ocarina of Time drop in 2020 and being astounded, not just by the technical mastery needed to beat the game so fast, but how most of the actual time of the run was just spent watching cutscenes, being unable to act. At world record pace, There Is No Game is quite similar. Much of the player's time is spent waiting to act, an artificial X denoting that your cursor is currently out of commission. It's ironic, isn't it? The better you get at speedrunning a game, the less time you spend actually playing it. The speedrunner's goal is to, at least in matters of time, erase themselves as much as possible. To leave behind what they can't skip through. But then again, that's the measure of skill. The less time you spend playing, the better. The beginning and ending of There Is No Game is particularly egregious in this regard. The player must wait 20 seconds after selecting a language to take any meaningful action. And the wait between unlocking the goat cage and selecting yes, perhaps the least skill-intensive test in the game, is just over 40 seconds. Combined, that's a whole minute of waiting the player is guaranteed to do each run, let alone all the time wasted in between tasks. In this sense, There Is No Game lives up to its name. For a decent chunk of each run, there is no game, just patiently waiting. Of course, that waiting is part of the run, gives the player time to prepare for the next task, but if we cut out all the fluff, what are we left with? All this waiting would be all fine and dandy if it wasn't for the fact that there's a large luck component to There Is No Game, and it practically all comes out of the Breakout section. I managed to snag a top 50 run as of the time of this writing, but primarily because the ball did this wild thing in my personal best attempt. I can't replicate it, and trust me, I've tried a lot. In wAvey, the world record holder's guide to running the game, he describes this as sicko mode, a phrase I now whisper to myself as a prayer every time I click the paddle to start this perverted game of racquetball. It is absolutely imperative for the player that this section, above all others, go quickly. It is where the vast majority of time can be gained or lost between runs. And while you can aim your best, that ball is just going to do whatever it damn well pleases. And sometimes it dinks into the wall and decides that's where it wants to stay for the next 10 seconds before falling back down to earth. It's infuriating and run resetting much of the time. Yet, I keep speedrunning this game. By pure chance, I performed better here than in games I've spent way more time speedrunning like Celeste, Portal, and Minesweeper. It's addicting because it's quick and dirty, easy to reset, and even easier to complete. It's got replayability and variety, just like how you could break Super Mario Bros. Into a series of specific levels and techniques. You can do the same for There Is No Game. But actually executing them is so damn easy, it feels like a sin not to try again. It's deceptive, just like the designer intended. Each action is simple. There are barely any tricks, outside of getting sicko mode to go off, that require extreme dexterity. Even the nut catch only takes a few attempts to master. This makes execution stand out. Like I've already noted, there is no limit on the speed of your mouse, so you can only blame your sluggishness on yourself. That entices the Minesweeper player in me, who just wants to go as fast as they can. Though I'm kind of lying here, because there is a sluggishness in the form of all the waiting you have to do. But once you accept everyone has to do the same amount of waiting, that the cutscenes play the same for everyone, it's a lot easier of a flaw to forgive. Someone who beat your time by 20 seconds didn't do so because they skipped a cutscene, but because they really were 20 seconds faster than you. That's the case for pretty much all speedruns, or at least generally is, but because There Is No Game draws so much attention to its gaminess, the point is laid bare to be considered. I find myself drawn to the designer of There Is No Game, whose voice guides the player through the experience. Kamizoto, real-life name Pascal Kamisoto, developed it for a Newgrounds game jam where the theme was deception. The goal was trying to trick the player into thinking it's not a game. Yet, I don't think anyone was meaningfully deceived, because the moment we are told there is no game, we have an irresistible urge to prove that statement wrong. The narrator puts on a straight face to try and convince us not to play the game, but he knows it's a losing battle. He goes to great lengths to undermine us, yet he is with us. He complains about the glitches of the game, gives the player hints on how to progress forward, cracks jokes to keep them engaged, and empathizes with their struggles. This sense of pacing is commonplace not just in games, but in video creation too. It questions what the relationship between player and designer truly is. I bet many game designers, and video creators for that matter, feel this way. Like their creations cultivate some kind of relationship with the audience. And I wonder to myself, what kind of relationship is this unvideo fostering with you right now? Are you speedrunning this video on ×2 speed? Will you keep watching it until the end? Does it matter if you do? More importantly to me, will you think about this video after you're done watching it? I sincerely hope you do, because that's my goal with each and every one of these essays. That's what I really want for you to do with this video. Consider things. Consider the gaminess of speedrunning, how we're just rushing through a series of tasks. Consider how we make strategies, memes, culture from this play. This culture isn't perfect, but then again, none are. But it's almost always fun. I want you to consider what it means to speedrun a game, and why do it at all. I want you to speedrun There Is No Game, to put some time into it, internalize each step of the way, so that you could tell me each action needed to reach the end from memory. Like how I made this list here in my script. Thus, just like how There Is No Game is self-effacing, denying itself, I hope you understand that there is no video, because I want you to go speedrun There Is No Game. Really, I do. So get out of here, you scamp. I am not error. See you next time.